Hello and welcome to The Pulse. Well, the sky may not be falling in just yet, that is, but Hong Kong's buildings haven't been doing so well in recent weeks, what with the collapse of the green roof of a sports hall at City University and the more recent collapse of part of the 150-year-old wall at the old Central Police Station. Later in the show, we look at concerns about threats to ageing historic buildings. And talking of ageing, we'll also look at whether Hong Kong is prepared for the growth of its ageing population. But first, it's now 27 years since the Tiananmen Square crackdown on June 4th, 1989. Since then, tens of thousands of people have gathered each year in Victoria Park to commemorate the dead and to demand that the Chinese Communist Party reverse the official verdict on what democracy advocates regard as being a massacre. People who were around at the time retain emotional memories of 1989. For some members of the younger generation, many of whom were born after the event, it's almost ancient history, and they are far more concerned with local issues than calls for democracy on the mainland. And they claim the annual June 4th vigil has been stuck in time for almost 3 decades.
我哋呢一代人認為6·4帶俾我哋意思係我哋去實踐民主自由，而唔係淨係只係悼念啊，或者係一個情感上面嘅一個宣泄啦。
而當我哋新一代再唔同意香港人係中國人，亦都認為我哋香港嘅新一代對中國冇特別義務嘅時候咧，我哋又睇唔到話支援會嘅6·4晚會咧有即係我哋要繼續傳承嘅必要。
我哋有反國教運動，我哋有雨傘運動，而呢啲對於佢哋嚟講係更加大嘅政治啟蒙嚟嘅。咁我哋唔會話否認係6·4呢件事對佢嚟講係冇影響或者係冇意義嘅事，只不過係再用呢個形式去同佢哋講嘅話，到底呢班人可以做啲乜嘢？除咗去參與啲集會之外，我諗而家我哋年輕人就係希望踏多一步咯。咁所以借住6·4嘅場合，我哋係希望集合咗唔同年代嘅香港人去講翻一個真正屬於大家嘅前途問題。
如果佢哋真係有心想去悼念6·4嘅，應該嚟維園。其實探討香港嘅前途係可以好多日子去做嘅，唔係一定要呢一晚。呢一晚係有特別嘅歷史意義。
何俊仁嗰一日咧就話嗱，有心悼念咧就應該去維園喎。咁應該呢兩隻字真係我覺得係有一種好似下命令嘅感覺喺度。其實佢冇乜嘢任何嘅資格或者任何嘅權去命令我哋香港人係應該去邊度。而有心悼念，點解唔俾我哋自己揀去邊度悼念，幾時悼念呢？
27 years on, more than 10 students' unions have decided to boycott the annual Victoria Park June 4th vigil commemorating the victims of the 1989 Tiananmen crackdown. They criticized the formality of the vigil and claimed that it has nothing to do with the current situation in Hong Kong. Although the Hong Kong Federation of Students will not take part in this year's vigil, some of its members might attend the commemoration. In a joint press conference, 11 university student unions said they do not agree with the alliance slogan of building a democratic China. They want to focus on issues closer to home. Instead of vigil, they will host their own forums in various campuses.
可以透過今次嘅討論咧，釐清翻6·4喺過往咁多年嚟對於香港嘅影響，從而咧喺釐清咗昨日之後咧，能夠明白到揾到咧我哋明天嘅抗爭路應該如何走下去。
The head of the editorial board of Shuyang University Student Union, Ng Kuai Lin, published an article condemning the vigil's organizer, the alliance in support of patriotic democratic movements of China, who were described as boss and pimps in brothel. They went on to say that the alliance lures young girls to be tainted before submitting them to gangs and bandits. Many people who witnessed the massacre in 1989 were shocked by this piece of writing.
因為佢講嗰啲嘢咧，其實不無道理嘅喎，我覺得，因為佢就係最主要表達就係支聯會咁多年以嚟就用一個大中華主義嘅角度咧，就去捆綁俾香港人，然之後就 同呢啲嚟維園嘅人士就灌輸一種愛國嘅情懷啦，就去籌款，然之後就貢獻俾中國嘅人民民主咁樣。
The latest article from Xuyan's editorial board suggests that the alliance should be disbanded and its cash should be given to various local groups such as Civic Passion, Youngspiration, and Hong Kong Indigenous.
Well, with us in the studio are Audrey Yu, Chairwoman of the Civic Party, and Gloria Chu, President of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology Student Union. Gloria Chu, can I ask you, first of all, I mean, how do you justify the fact that you are boycotting the June 4th vigil, which after all is the only place on Chinese soil where a vigil of this kind can be legally held?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a boycott because we are not against this kind of activities. It's just that instead of commemorate or just to commemorate, we want to do more than that. And to do more than that, we are holding this kind of forum where people can discuss, where students can discuss what June 4th means to us, what June 4th means to Hong Kong people, and also the future of Hong Kong can be touch a point in this discussion forum.
Can I just interrupt you? Because in fact, I mean, I thought it was a boycott. I mean, students' unions have been saying, we are not recommending, we are not participating in it. That sounds like a boycott to me.
Well, we are not participating, though the one organized, hosted by Hong Kong Airlines. But then we are doing in another way, our own way, which is, I think the underlying goal of us, it's like the same.
I mean, some student leaders, not yourself, have not only said they're boycotting, but have attacked the people who participate in the vigil and attack the organisers of it in rather strong terms. Do you associate yourself with that?
Well, I couldn't say I 100% agree with them. We do think that it's a bit over. But in general, students' union and student union leaders think that we do not want to we're not against anyone who go or who do not go or who go to which one or like what, in what ways they commemorating the dead people. But then it's very important that actually we are on the same path.
The criticism of the vigil actually has been expressed in rather more strenuous terms than we've just
Yes.
heard a moment ago. Does that worry you?
It makes me really sad, actually. I mean, I, of course, accept that people have different views, what they want to remember, what they don't want to remember. They may want to commemorate in different ways, that's fine. But I think what really saddens me this year is that there's been a lot of very, very strong criticisms against the alliance and against the candlelight vigil. I mean, to me, I mean, even Gloria said, you know, they have the same goal. To me, it's the same goal, and it's not a contradiction. There are 365 days in a year. You can have forums and discussions any day, but June 4th is the evening when, you know, a lot of Hong Kong people go to the vigil. And to me, June 4th commemoration is actually, the candlelight vigil is actually a very local thing. The reason I say that is it's very much tied up with the Hong Kong movement for democracy, because the June 4th incident actually happened when Hong Kong was going through the basic law drafting. And it had a huge impact upon Hong Kong people. And a lot of the Hong Kong people who lived through it, it's a kind of awakening to them.
How do you address the criticism that you know, in the last 27 years, actually the vigil has just kind of stultified, you know?
Well, I think a lot of the criticism is that, well, it's a ritual. And I can understand that. And to me, if you commemorate something, I mean, it's like paying your respects to your deceased parents. I mean, it is a ritual in many ways. And you remember, you pay your respect, and you learn, as Gloria says, from the experience. And you don't need fanciful stuff, and you're not attracting people to an event like an entertainment. You have a collective remembrance. And as you said, Steve, it's important that it's the only place in Chinese soil where there is such a large number of people gathering to, you know, not only remember the event, but also to in many ways give moral support to those who are still suffering in mainland China. I mean, a lot of the human rights movements, and particularly lawyers, for example, and also the family members of those who died on June 4th, they are still suffering. And, a collective candle vigil and, does help, I think.
Well, thank you both very much indeed, and we're going to be back after the break. Welcome back. Last month, we reported on concerns that the 150-year-old Manmo Temple could be under threat if plans were approved to build a 21-storey hostel for young people right next to it. Well, on May 13th, the Town Planning Board approved the plan, but the collapse of part of another historical structure just a few hundred yards away along Hollywood Road has now exacerbated those concerns.
According to the Jockey Club CPS Limited, which is handling the adaptation of the old Central Police Station into the Tai Kwun Center for Heritage and Art, the project is to set a benchmark for excellence in restoration, revitalization, and adaptive reuse of historic structures. The rest of us may be forgiven for believing those aspirations collapsed on Sunday night. The walls and roof that collapsed are part of the Merit Inspector's quarters built from 1862 to 1864. The Development Bureau, the Antiquities and Monuments Office and the Buildings Department have all visited the site and investigated the cause of the accident. Secretary for Development Paul Chen says that the rest of the buildings in the compound are safe. The Bureau also said that most fallen debris consisted of new construction materials rather than the old-grade bricks that have formed the building for some 150 years. Many conservation groups have long warned the government and the Jockey Club Heritage Working Group that development of this compound could jeopardize the foundation of the features and create potential danger.
I will call this a disaster. Our concern group is very against overdevelopment inside a heritage compound. We feel that the Central Police Station compound is itself a very, very interesting site, and there are, about 18 historic buildings within the compound, all with different characteristics and very, very unique. We couldn't quite understand why the government and the Jockey Club insist on building two big buildings on top of the historic buildings.
While the government says most of the debris is modern construction material, Li Ho-yin, the Heritage Working Group chairman for the Tai Kwun project, said on Monday that the grey bricks used to build the wall of the quarters in 1842 may be the cause of the accident. He believes conservation groups are too rigid in their approach and said that to catch up with international norms and trends, local regulations should be looser.
So it's very dangerous for amateurs. I'm sorry I have to say that. I'm sure a lot of people would be scolding me on the blog to insist on a total preservation approach for buildings that are meant to be reused through revitalization. This is irresponsible. It's putting people's life at stake.
Before the collapse, strengthening works had been underway, along with the construction of a new external metal staircase, an accessible lift and new toilets. The whole project has now been put on hold for investigation and clearance works. While the arguments between those who favor conservative preservation and those who favor more radical amendments continue, there are also conservation concerns about the Manmo Temple, located on the same street as the Central Police Station compound. In mid-May, the Town Planning Board approved a rezoning plan to turn this primary school next to the temple into a 21-storey youth hostel. Even though the developer of the hostel, the Tonghua Hospital Group, had not yet submitted any proposals on drilling or power driving. There are concerns that with only 6 feet between the two structures, this 150-year-old monument may also be weakened by construction. And those are not the only buildings that could be weakened by redevelopment plans. The 80-year-old Bauhaus-style Central Market, a Grade 3 heritage building, is also not in good shape. It has been sitting empty for almost a decade, awaiting revitalization. The Urban Renewal Authority is responsible for that, but says the site hasn't been handed over to it yet, and that as it's still a government property, its strengthening and maintenance is the government's responsibility.
If the government is intending to preserve this market, they should, at the very, very first instance, if they detect any problems, structural problems, cracks, they should take care of it immediately and not leaving until when the URA could finalize the design, which is many, many years later. And then now we see that the buildings is also continue to deteriorate. And I think that's a shame.
It's not just old buildings that are threatened, because as elsewhere, Hong Kong's population is getting older by the day. So the question is, are we prepared to deal with the problems of an ageing population? In just the past year, the number of elderly people living below the poverty line has increased by more than 8,000. But money isn't their only problem. They also face formidable problems getting around or finding opportunities to participate in the community.
Currently, only 3 out of Hong Kong's 18 districts, Kwai Ching, Tsuen Wan and Sai Kung, qualify for the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly cities and communities. All 3 have pledged not only to make civic participation easier for the elderly, but also to improve the outdoor space and health services available to them. Mak Yun Lin joined the community-initiated Cheung Kwan O Elderly Livelihood Concern Group in 2009. The Foco's 68-year-old is happy to have contributed to improving facilities in her neighborhood.
以前咧，長者去圖書館咧，即係嗰啲字咁細隻，又睇唔到，啲椅咧又好唔方便嚇，咁樣係少咗去嘅。自從有咗呢個長者角之後咧，覺得咦方便好多喎，啊有放大鏡啦，咁睇起嚟咧就容易啲啦。仲有嗰啲椅靠背啊、扶手啊咁樣坐落去慢慢坐，上嚟嗰陣咧撐住咁啊幫到老友記咯。咁同埋啲殘疾人都多咗喎，佢覺得個輪椅可以入到台下邊咁啊，大家方便好多。以前自己咧所見嘅嘢好狹窄咯，好局限咯。咁參加咗民生關注會咧。個眼光廣闊咗啦，嗰個心胸都遠大咗啦，覺得哦原來有好多嘢係可以爭取到嘅喎。
人口老化將為退休保障、醫療護理同埋安老服務帶嚟額外嘅財政。
In this year's policy address, the chief executive said he would commit additional resources to promoting age-friendly communities at the district level. From now on, districts like Sai Kung will be granted an extra $53,000 a year. Stanley Tam, who chairs the age-friendly city working group of the Sai Kung district, thinks the additional financial aid is far from enough, but he does welcome the government's initiative.
我哋自己委員會咧都係同意咗咧去預留多10萬嚇，咁希望咧去俾多啲機構咧嚟到做，即係特別係一啲嘅即係公眾教育嘅啲工作咯。好坦白講，你又如果係啲設施改善咧，就你得5萬幾蚊，其實可以做到啲咩嘅工程咧？咁所以話咧，我哋好着重咧，就話我哋係咪可以係用到，譬如咧係即係地區小型工程撥款，係咪可以做一啲嘅設施係可以方便到長者嘅咯。
Kwong Wing Tai is a member of the same working group. He's fighting to increase and improve civic participation for the elderly. The 63-year-old meets up with others every 2 months to take their views to the district council.
喺今年第一次開會之前，我哋同個譚領律啦，同埋一啲議員咧都傾下，我哋咧就要求咧，我哋嘅功能提升我哋嘅功能咯，我哋唔想做花樽咯，即係話我哋要有一個同委員一樣嘅身份咯，就唔係淨係列席。我哋今次就要求埋我哋有一個發言權，同埋咧就係我哋講嘅嘢咧係要被記錄嚇，即係唔係話好似傾閒偈咁傾完就算數啦咁嚇。
我哋好着重一個係由下而上一個嘅模式啊，希望咧好重視長者嘅參與，希望咧從佢哋身上咧去聽多啲意見。咁我哋咧就同翻即係相應嘅即係政府部門啊嚟到去傾下點樣可以令到我哋嘅成個社區能夠即係長者友善係做得好啲咁樣。
The Central and Western District is also vying to become an age-friendly community. District Councillor Ted Hui says an annual sum of $300,000 to $500,000 is generally earmarked for elderly services and facilities, and that the government's extra $53,000 is very inadequate when you consider the actual situation.
We are in a district full of mountains and hills, so the problem for elderly is when they need to go home, they need to go up. We don't have enough escalators and lifts, and that has been the problem of the central and western districts. And we do have elderly-friendly facilities, but they are not close to residential areas. So elderly have to walk a long way to enjoy those facilities. Building one lift for elderly to have easier access to facilities, we are talking about more than 1 million. So 53,000 is really nothing.
Well, that's it for us for this week. We'll leave you with images of candles commemorating June 4th placed outside Ledgeco on Wednesday night. And see you next week. Goodbye.
民主會戰勝歸來，民主會戰勝歸來，白髮斑斑情意深切。